All right, it's time for world politics. We'll see what's going on the political land front and see if anybody joined us. Otherwise, it might be an abbreviated show. But defense giants insist investors should still bet on them as Russia-Ukraine deal hopes spark sell-off. So that's something that we're hearing in the world news and everything along those lines. And Putin can fund the war for years, ex-officials say, as Trump resolve is tested. And India's $3.3 trillion opportunity for global fund houses. And the Vietnam stock market is booming in 2025. And some people are asking why this may be just the beginning. So it looks like they're having a booming economy there in Vietnam. Ukraine is at the critical moment in the war as European allies ramp up pressure on Russia. Is something else that is being reported. And CNBC's Inside India newsletter, how a government app in India triggered a backlash over internet freedom. And Europe's plan to use $105 billion of frozen Russian assets is tantamount to war, according to Russia's Medvedev. And India is, of course, set to host Russia's Putin and deepening trade ties, unfazed by the punitive U.S. tariffs. And that was reported earlier this month as well. So definitely that's just some of the things that are going on in the world and everything like that. Trump is defending his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, after she says he has a alcoholic's personality. And Tesla stock rises or closes at a record as investors rally around Musk robotaxi hype despite slow EV sales. And what Trump's reclassification of pop and CBD could mean for seniors, research, and stocks. And the S&P 500 slips for a third day as the job report sparks economic fears, and that's definitely something that's going on. I know that sometimes Milan talks about the S&P 500 even on this network. And Sheryl Sandberg says corporate climate, one of the worst he has ever seen. And Trump talks to Xi and Takashi, but spat over Taiwan, unlikely to be resolved soon, is what was reported in the latter part of last month. So a lot still going on in that space as well. So a lot's going on in the world of politics, and we'll get to some of those stories and see what folks have to say about a number of these things that are taking place in the political realm and how it is impacting their own lives as well. Trump is to tout accomplishments and address the nation on Wednesday, is what the White House is saying. So he's going to have one of those State of the Union addresses on this coming Wednesday, and he'll be touting his accomplishments and all along those lines. And key ACA tax credit likely to expire after House Speaker blocked the vote. And Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, dished on Epstein, tariffs, and Musk and Bondi. So the bill to ease big tech projects permits advances in the White House. And Korea Zinc sinks 14% as largest shareholder group challenges U.S.-backed plans for Tennessee smelter. So that's something they're talking about as well. Sheryl Sandberg on why AI could widen the gender gap is something else that was reported on earlier today as well. And OpenAI hires Slack CEO Denise Dresser to lead their global revenue strategy. Isuzu platform for renters to build credit scores valued at $1.2 billion in new funding round. So that's something else that's going on in the news as well. And we've got news as far as Kushner's Affinity Partners exit Paramount bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, and Tesla stock closes at records as investors rally around Musk robo-taxi hype despite those slow EV sales, and that was something that was being reported as well. Trump sues BBC for $10 billion, claims defamation from Panorama documentary, and the Pentagon is taking a big step in a new Korea Zinc refinery in Tennessee, gets 10% of the company. And new Trump tariffs collection hits $200 billion is what Customs has said. And former Instacart employee said she was fired over her Democratic congressional campaign. And Ukraine peace talks progressing. Russia says they're open to Ukraine having EU membership, according to what U.S. officials are saying. And New York AG, Attorney General, sues the UPS for allegedly shorting Christmas season workers' wages. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about as well. And the Trump administration will be hiring 1,000 specialists for the tech force. And Trump doubles down on Rob Reiner criticism after killing a director's son in custody. To justify martial law, former South Korean President Yoon tried to provoke North Korea. And Hong Kong court has found pro-democracy activist Jimmy Lai guilty of sedition. And Comey evidence was wrongfully retained, creating hurdles for new charges, according to a judge there. And 2 U.S. soldiers and an interpreter killed in a suspected Islamic State attack that was reported on in the 13th, and all along those lines. But definitely, there's some folks that are saying that they might have been not what they had been reported to be earlier. So this is still an ongoing story. U.S. Veterans Affairs Agency reportedly plans 35,000 healthcare job cuts, and TSA is giving airline passenger data to ICE for deportation push, according to the New York Times. Trump's AI orders may be illegal, Democrats and consumer advocacy groups are claiming, and Trump sued by a preservation group seeking to halt the White House ballroom project. Trump says no big deal after new Epstein photos showing him released. And definitely there's a lot going on in that space as well. Trump's security strategy scared Europe. That's not a bad thing, is what an ex-CIA chief said. And the House has passed the Invest Act to ease investment standards, boost capital in the market, and other things that are part of that as well. An Indiana redistricting bill that Trump demanded defeated in state Senate, and the DOJ fails again to indict New York Attorney General James. A Trump target is what a report is coming out and saying as well. And Trump sells out U.S. national security with NVIDIA chip sales to China, according to Warren. And Trump pushes for a top prosecutor to monetize, pushes for top prosecutor nominee Halligan after Comey and James case were tossed. So after their cases were tossed, then we got somebody pushing for somebody else to take the job. Trump willing to seize more oil tankers off of Venezuela coast is what White House officials are saying. And seized tanker will go to U.S. port. Trump administration intends to seize the oil. So that is something else we're hearing in the news as well, is this notion that he's going to seize the oil. Seized tanker will go to U.S. port. Trump administration intends to seize the oil. And if we could do anything about that, we'll find out what other folks have to say about that as well. So hopefully some other folks will join us and we'll have some discussions about what's going on with Venezuela and these seized tankers. But right now they're saying that they'll go to the U.S. port. Trump administration is intending to seize the oil. And a spoof ship seized oil tanker skipper hid location data, visited Iran and Venezuela. And the GOP lawmaker sends Trump aid for agricultural department after the terror pressures and all along those lines. Trump says Fed could have at least doubled the latest interest rate cut, and Trump administration touts pulling nearly 10,000 truckers off the road for failing their English test. Swiss government says the new 15% U.S. tariffs ceiling is retroactive to mid-November. So they're saying that that's not even going to be active till mid-November and everything like that. Well, it was active back then, I should say. And Homeland Security Department buying Boeing 737s for ICE deportations. And Trump said he heard Biden Fed appointments were signed on AutoPen, tells aide to investigate. And Trump apparently earlier delivered a speech on the economy in Pennsylvania as cost concerns are rising. Trump trade representative changes China's soybean purchase timeline, citing discrepancies. So definitely lots going on the foreign side as well with Trump and all in that space. China is buying U.S. soybeans again, but falling short of goal set by the Trump trade administration. House Democrats established AI working group as industry bolsters their D.C. presence. And judge unseals Ghislaine Maxwell grand jury materials, citing the Epstein File Act. And Trump threatens Mexico with 5% tariffs on Mexico and all along those lines. I did say that we'd begin to some other stories, and of course we'll get to those, and I'll see who else joins us, if anybody, and along those lines. But definitely a lot's going on in the world, and we're always glad to be talking about that here on Pod TV. Former Trump lawyer Alina Habba resigns as New Jersey U.S. attorney after disqualification, and Trump is threatening Mexico with 5% tariff increase over water disputes. So that is something that we're hearing as well as this water dispute. Supreme Court conservatives are opposed to back Trump in an FTC firing case, and Trump announces $12 billion aid package for farmers caught up in the trade war. Trump says Netflix and WB deal could be problematic as soon as son-in-law Kushner backs the Paramount bid. Trump says Zelensky hasn't read U.S. peace proposal as tensions mount. And we're definitely going and getting some people to talk about some of the things that they've got on their mind news-wise and everything like that. But definitely lots going on in the world and around the globe. By the way, the Trump Secretary Bessent says he has divested his soybean farm, so maybe he's going to join some other part of the administration. Maybe he's going to move to D.C. Who knows? And Trump says claims pardoned Democratic congressman as disloyal for not switching parties. So he's got some words to say even about the Democrats as well. And I guess he's trying to recruit some more people for the MAGA and his party and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting how this all plays out. Because I know some people are thinking he might want to be the leader forever. Trump's AI order may be illegal. Democrats and consumer advocacy groups are claiming, so that's something that is in the news as well. And Trump's blessing of NVIDIA AI chip sales to China gets a chilly reception from the GOP. And some people are saying terrifying why senators in top Intel jobs want more spies on China's companies. And Democrats established AI working group as industry bolsters DC presence. And Trump announces $12 billion aid package for farmers caught up in the trade war and all along those lines. And the congressional watchdog probes Trump FAA chief Bill Pulte. And congressional stock ownership is outrageous, says Representative Mike Levin. So House Democrats are sharing Epstein Island photos, blank shares files with oversight. So all of this is new news. I may even bring up what Dr. Sharif has got on his mind if he joins us and all along those lines. But Senator Jim Justice and his wife sued for and agreed to pay $5 million in unpaid taxes from 2009. And the FBI is seeking to interview Democratic lawmakers whom Trump accused of seditious behavior. And an AI super PAC launches $10 million campaign pushing uniform national policies. And Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said that she will resign after the fallout with Trump. So Trump, on Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation, she went bad. And Senator Mark Kelly faces Pentagon probe for video on refusing unlawful orders. And Hakeem Jeffries defends Democrats' Obamacare subsidy extension plan in a fiery clash that took place last month. And White House crafting executives ordered to distort the state AI laws, while Representative Cherfilos McCormick charged with stealing $5 million in FEMA funds. So that's something that a lot of people are paying attention to, is what's going on with these funds and all along those lines. So that is a fascinating story that people are paying attention to and are concerned about and all along that kind of way. I'll play a couple of commercials. I might be back with some more news, but let's see what we've got here, including a political one. So let's check this out.
And there are just some things that are not comfortable for white people. They're not comfortable for them to talk about the possibility that Africans were here before the Europeans. So what do you do with the heads in Mexico that you find at San Lorenzo, at Tres Zapotes? What do you do with those? All right? You ignore them. What do you do with Columbus's diary that says the Africans know a way to the west, but it goes around the doldrums, we would never survive? What do you do with that? You ignore it. What do you do with Balboa's diary that says we came upon this African village in the isthmus? How did these Africans get here? What do you do with that? You ignore it. Why? To preserve the myth that the Europeans were here first. What do you do with all of this written literature and history that says that Abubakar II of Mali sent 200 ships to the west? One came back and said they were afraid that the others disappeared. And then to have Balboa find this village that looks just like Mali, where he was, what do you do with this information? You ignore it. You ignore it. Why? To preserve the myth of white superiority. That's what our whole educational process is devoted to. What do you do with this whole history? This is a written history, my dear. Written. I'm not talking about hearsay. I'm not talking about a griot said this. I'm not talking about something handed down from one generation to the other through voice. I'm talking about written history of the Egyptians. What do you do with this? You ignore it.
Over 2 in 5 drug abusers were found to have first started their habit before they turned 18, and that's according to a survey conducted by the Institute of Mental Health, the first of its kind. Now, it involves more than 6,000 respondents. Let's take a look at some other findings. Well, more than half of the respondents cited cannabis as the first illicit drug consumed, and this is followed by what is commonly known as ecstasy. There was also a small number of people who took methamphetamines and heroin. The most frequently taken drug is cannabis. This is followed by ecstasy and methamphetamine, which we told you about earlier. That was taken by close to 20% of respondents. Around 1 in 10 cited heroin as their drug of choice.
We are very concerned that drug abuse starts at such a young age and at home, where young people should have parental supervision and be safe. Given the long-term impact of drug abuse, we need to do more to address this. We have increased efforts to educate the public, especially youth, on the harms of drugs and counter misinformation and proliferation of liberal drug views on foreign media and social media.
Now, we spoke to a former drug abuser. Let's hear what he says.
A snip here and a cut there. 34-year-old Jabez Toh is hard at work editing promotional videos, but his life today is very different from his youth.
I remember when at the age of 15, I met with a bunch of friends, which is part of a secret society. One day, I was introduced by a friend to taste some drugs. So out of curiosity, I took the drugs and tasted it.
And soon Jabez was craving his next hit and was willing to do anything to get it.
At the age of 16, I get caught of drug trafficking, which I don't even know the consequences at all. So to earn money, to satisfy my craving of drugs, because I need the money to buy drugs also. So I go and sell and earn some profit.
After multiple stints in and out of prison, Jabez was eventually able to get clean from drugs with the help of the halfway house where he's currently working. To help more youths whose stories are similar to Jabez's, efforts will be reinforced. At an annual Central Narcotics Bureau work plan seminar, preventive education, especially for young people, came under the spotlight.
The youth must be taught to recognize misinformation when they see it. Getting into even a soft drug, so-called soft drug, which is, say, cannabis is thought to be, can also be very harmful because it does permanent physical and mental damage to your health, and also it can act as a gateway drug, which will then allow people to graduate on to other more potent substances.
And as such, the event also included information on anti-drug advocacy and an exhibition on cannabis and its harmful effects.
Well, like Mr. Toh, of those who had taken drugs, around a fifth of them cited curiosity as a top reason. Others believed taking drugs might help them with problems they faced. Just over 10% took drugs under the influence of friends. But most surveys still found illicit drugs to be very harmful when consumed, especially compared with smoking or alcohol use. That's regardless of how often a drug is taken or the type of drug consumed.
Haven't heard from anybody else, so we'll just wrap it up. But let me give you a couple of other quick news that is going on in the world and all along those lines, and then we'll just wrap this edition up. And we'll be back on Thursday with more world politics unless somebody joins me during this time. Trump administration gets longer Supreme Court pause on order. It pulled food stamp or full food stamp benefits. And Jeffrey Epstein on Trump said, I know how dirty Donald is. And that was from an article last month and everything like that. And even the full pause was from last month as well. So these are some of the things that are taking place in the world. Let's see what's happening in the market and all along those lines. Let's see what's going on in the U.S. market and what other stories might be out there as well. But definitely a lot's taking place on the market. Fed's Bostic says concerned rate cuts could unanchor inflation expectations. November jobs report doesn't change much for the Feds, says Fed's Dennis Lockhart. So Fed independence is really important. Trump ties shouldn't disqualify the chair candidate, is what Hassett says. And copper could hit the stratospheric new highs as hoarding of the metal in U.S. continues. Silver has rallied 115% this year. Strategists predict what's next. And GOP lawmakers seek Trump aid for agricultural equipment after the tariff pressures and all along those lines. And stay long Japanese equities and long yen in 2026 is what strategists are predicting. And use 2026 dip opportunistically to get into megatrends as more attractive valuations are what some strategists are reporting as well. So that's some of the stories that are going on in that space. Defense stock falls as talks continue to end the Ukraine war. European market is finishing lower. Gold inches up as U.S. unemployment rates rise in November, and dollar drops against peers after delayed U.S. data shows some jobs growth and everything like that. So that's just some of the things that are going on the economic front. We will have the investment show on tomorrow afternoon and all along those lines. So some people might be here to talk about their various investment picks and their investment strategies and what they are doing in that space as well. So we can definitely look forward to that and see what people have to say about their investment strategies and what may be taking place in that world and around that way. But on that note, we're going to get on out of here. This was an abbreviated version of World Politics. So hopefully we'll be back on tomorrow with more World Politics.